wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is Don't Get Pulled into the It's Hard story. But before we get there, I'd love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au and sign up to join our tribe with your email address. Once a week, we'll send you a wrap-up with everything that we've put out in the world so you can pick and choose with a click where you'd love to dive deeper. And occasionally we'll send you a love letter that's a conversation or an awakening or a toolkit that Bridget and I would talk about together. So nourishingthemother.com.au and join our tribe.
This was really inspired by my week, which I'm coming to the end of, where it's been largely solo parenting as my husband has been working crazy hours. And I've been reflecting, because Jules said, what's going on in your week? Is there anything that, you're really sitting with and kind of feeling like you're ready to share? And I thought, I suppose I'm really working on how much the truth is, our inner world is reflected in our outer world by looking at my inner dialogue and kind of sense of groundedness and sort of cup fillingness this week, where I am doing so much of it on my own, including, the waking up and resettling at night and stuff like that.
Which is a killer.
Yeah. Sylvie's down to sort of one wake up at night now. But even so, I don't love being woken up. Like, I really like to sleep.
Yeah.
And she still hasn't slept through yet. And she's nearly 18 months. But I really recognised how much you can make it as hard or as bearable as you want. Like in these stages that we find ourselves in. And that reminder to look for the richness, to look for the ability to create lightness and fun, because two young kids can be taxing, particularly if there's certain edges that they're taking you to. We're just getting into the sort of sibling dynamic stuff now, and it's that whole thing, I can either choose to react here or I can choose to respond. And that's sort of been a little bit of my mantra the whole week. Like, I can either choose
I love that as a mantra.
Yeah, I can either choose to react to feeling frustrated at how tired I am, or, how, because of the heat, my kids aren't going to sleep until 8:30, 9:30,
Yeah.
And I have not much time left. I can either get shitty about that, or I can find a way to find my peace in it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that's through, little rituals. It's through looking at what I'm expecting of myself and my children and whether those expectations are reasonable.
So just break that down a little bit more. So I think just break down your steps a little bit more. Yeah, your thought processes.
I think I have a tendency to want to have a massive list of things I think I can get done in a day. And as I look at what my values are and really being honest about them this year, particularly with the year of, being a school mum and the level of organisation I'm now going to have, and also the level of presence that I'm going to need when I'm having just one child at home a lot more. It's really got me to look really closely about what I want to create. I was talking to my husband about last year and how much I felt pulled in a million directions, and often because I had so much business stuff going on, I wasn't chunking that time effectively. I was almost had that on my mind when I was with my kids, or I had my kids on my mind when I was with my business, and I wasn't I don't feel like bringing the best of myself as much as I could have. And so I'm really sitting with this idea of having some structure in order to create the freedom that I'm looking for. And that also comes with really paying attention to my inner world and what are the triggers that send me offline and disconnected within myself, and what are some of the things that I can do to bring myself online again. And I love being with my children because for the reasons that they make me recognise the next little areas I've got for growth. Because, there's things that they do that send me from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. I'm like, oh, there's something for me to learn from. Hey, that's an area that I'm about to just plunge right into. And really finding a way to you know, make comfortable that as opposed to want to run away from that. And that is what I mean when I think about like finding the richness. Is kind of going, oh, wow, you're bringing me that right now. Oh, like I want to run the other way. But I can see that this is, like there's a real path to enormous connection here. If I can stay here that little bit longer, if I can stay in this uncomfortable place a little bit longer. You know, and my word for the year is courage. So I'm really looking at like the ways in which I can bring that. And it might even be in the most smallest of ways. It's not about kind of some big, you know, like drum beating fiesta. It can be in, you know, when I want to go distract myself or when I want to switch off, or kind of like I can hear myself like being more and more disinterested in what one of my kids or my husband's saying. I kind of bring myself back again and go, no, like what they're saying matters. Even, you know, and I'm training myself to, you know, through my value system, learn to hold the space better and be a better listener and essentially give the ones I love what I'd love to receive in return. Because I've been thinking a lot about the whole, you know, what do I want to teach my children, and, you know, what are some of the conversations we'll be having around, you know, socializing and friendship, and so much of the very things that we're seeking from other people we need to be able to give to ourselves, and so many things that we ask of children we need to first model for them. And so, you know, even when I have been tired this week, even when I am, you know, like a bit stretched, it's okay, well, what do I need to do for myself so I can be more okay with this? And it's having the flexibility to decide to do things in the day that give me that, but that also give my child something. You know?
What might they be?
Well, even like tonight, like I would have loved to have gone down the beach, but I could just tell I didn't have the energy. I felt like it was too hot for the kids, but I still wanted to have, you know, some play. So it was, you know, a hose in the backyard and filling up the kiddie pool and putting aside whatever it was that I thought I had to get done for the day, to instead just create that fun for them, which I ultimately, like, you know, joined straight into too. And noticing, you know, the aspect, the times when I'm wanting to go do something else. Well, why is that? Like, is there something else that I'm wanting to do actually important, or is it because I'm feeling uncomfortable being here? And how can I be a little bit more comfortable here? Because it's all just perception, like, and, you know, our value system trying to steer us, or our injected value system trying to steer us away. But there's such I love just asking myself to be here more, you know, with my kids, and particularly I suppose it's more sentimental because I know Hugo's going to school really soon, and that's going to really change things. But I think so often when we have this story around stuff being hard, like this is the motherhood slog being hard, it really is like so fleeting when they're little, and when they're when those days seem tough. I think the more that we can sit with the big feelings of it within us, the more our kids, you know, can be made safe to have those same feelings too.
We know it's easy to lose yourself in motherhood.
To be tapped out and touched out, to forget who you are and what you're worthy of, to fall short of the mother you thought you should be.
Ouch.
This is why we created the Loathing to Loving program.
We want you to open up, to show up and transform what you believe is possible for you as a woman and as a mother, because you're both, and we don't want you to give up one in order to be the other.
For $249, you'll spend 5 weeks online with us with lifetime access to 4 modules where we give you the toolkit for understanding what's happening in your world and how to transform it.
You can pay in full, or we have just instigated payment plans, which means you can make 3 simple payments, one of $49 at sign up and 2 $100 payments over 2 months, if that is going to make it easier in your world.
Yes, so come and blossom with us.
Open up, show up and transform.
I think getting more comfortable in that presence as well, and that, you know, ability to sort of stay in the zone and find the kind of the gift is also through knowing yourself more. So becoming more clear on your own unique values, and also when you're starting to inject the values of others, because so often we find those feelings of frustration or that feeling of disconnection when we sort of on this hamster wheel of what everybody else wants from us except what we want from us. And I think more and more I'm sort of lessening the brain noise of the ideas of others to find that inner quiet, to be connected with what lights me up, and also thus being able to be more present to my kids because I'm not caught in the storm as much.
What does that brain noise look like for you? What are the things that you find yourself injecting within your mind?
Yeah, probably what I think every other, like, you know, crazy entrepreneur, woman or man in the world is doing that I should be doing, or what other conscious mother is doing that I'm not doing good enough. That kind of stuff. It would be my two tracks that run.
Yeah.
And just becoming a bit more aware of, okay, why am I getting stuck on that story, and why is it taking me away from right now? Do I need that? No. What's it asking me to own more of? What's it asking me to cultivate within myself right now? Instead of me getting in that spiral of, like, you know, depression or whatever it is that says that I'm not okay. I'm instead looking at it and going, that's interesting. Okay, what are you wanting me to awaken now?
That's genius. I love those questions, bringing it back to the actual moment now, because there's a reason also that your brain has put it in at this exact moment in time, because what was happening in the moment right before that.
Yeah, and it's usually some kind of judgment we have on ourselves that we've then brought something else in to kind of be the mediator of whatever's going on here, but often it's not needed. We just need to find that clarity and stronger voice within us. So just becoming more aware of that, and also that stronger clarity has been more powerful to, I think, be able to stay in the, you know, perceived hardness without looking for a way out. This is certainly something that I'd love you to expand on in terms of, you know, becoming a mother of four, and you know, I'm sure there's many of our listeners who wonder how you are doing that and still creating the space for yourself in that. And no doubt there is a lot of intentionality that you bring to the stories that you tell yourself around that, and the space that you still allow yourself to have within the demands of that. I'd love to hear you expand a bit.
Golly gosh, I don't even know, honestly, how to answer that. I think probably one of my greatest realizations is that everything is in flow. And our days are in flow, our weeks are in flow, our months are in flow, and our years are in flow. It's that concept of there's a season for everything, right? And a season can happen within an hour, it can happen within a day, it happens within our monthly cycle, it happens within our life cycles. You know, I just really now sink into that everything has a life cycle. And so what seems hard this week, when I apply a toolkit and find my way through it, will seem effortless next week, let's say. And then that challenge won't disappear. It'll just morph into a different area. Yeah. So I feel like there's always a challenge of equal immensity, simply that it moves into different areas. As you gain mastery over the area it's just moved from. Yeah. And so it's also why I also don't think that any one mother has it any harder than any other mother, because I do think we all have, on a feeling level, the same intensity of feeling, just that it looks different because it's in different areas, it's in different forms for every person. So, you know, it really stops me from judging myself and others, because we're all equally struggling and we're all equally succeeding.
Yeah, I love that.
So when I think about, you know, this don't get pulled into the it's too hard story, I definitely have to self-check myself for that sometimes, because I can. And look, particularly, you know, same as you saying with the nighttime stuff, I was saying to you before, I was driving to your house tonight and thinking, I may never sleep a whole night again, because don't get me wrong, I actually fucking hate being woken up because I love sleep as well. But the way that I got through this with number 4 was I knew I was going to be up at night. I knew I was already tired. So what could I do to face my nights? What could I do to bring the pleasure in so that I wasn't hating on it? Because that seemed mentally and emotionally more destructive than finding a pleasure state within it. Again, it's the not too hard story, right? Yeah. And so for me, it was to get a pair of Bluetooth headphones that sync with my phone, and I have a stockpile of ebooks that I'm inspired by, or, you know, never get around to reading. But guess what? There's this thing called ebooks, and you can listen to someone reading them. And I choose the ones where it's the author speaking to me. So it sounds like phenomenal. And podcasts. And so I was saying to you, so, you know, I go to bed at night and I put my headphones next to my bed, and I'm always like, I'll see you later for a date. And I was driving here thinking, maybe I love it too much and I'm never going to sleep again. So, you know, I think it's part of this, realizing that everything has a season, everything has drawbacks and benefits, and whatever you're doing in your life right now, whether it feels counterproductive or productive, will have still both sides to it. And even when you want to say, well, you know, I hate getting up at night and I'm so tired, how does your tiredness serve you? Does it get you out of showing up the next day fully as a woman, as a woman outside of a mother? Does it protect you from delving deeply into your own numbness? Does it give you a beautiful buffer to intimacy with your partner? Does it allow you to, in inverted commas, get away with parenting styles that otherwise, if you were not so tired and drained, you would do differently? Like, I just think, you know, I don't want that to sound harsh, but it's always serving us. It's all love, right? We are always loving ourselves, even in the stuff we don't want to love. It's still love. So I guess, like you, Bridget, I think I would really love to bring more intentionality into the moment and ask myself what was happening in the moment before and stay there a little bit longer. I would really love to do that more as a practice, because I ebb and flow out of that a bit.
I think that's human nature. I think we all kind of do that. We're supposed to.
Yeah.
But having that, you know,
the line of conscious questioning makes a big difference.
Governance of ourselves and our sort of mind around, you know, letting it kind of go haywire. Yeah. Really bringing more presence to it.
Yeah. So I don't kind of know, I mean, what else? Are there specific questions? Are there ways you want to go here?
I think, you know, really in terms of holding the space for yourself in amongst everybody else and being, because I know one of some of my triggers is being talked at all of the time. So, you know, having everybody people demanding things at the same time of me, and me feeling like I can't keep up. You know? I imagine that would be magnified.
Yeah.
So what does that look like in terms of, you know, balancing that or showing up to that?
We have quiet time. We have a lot of quiet time. It shows up because I know what I really need, and I'm really clear on that with my kids. And it becomes part of their language. So, you know, we might have playtime, and then I'm like, they'll, you know, the next thing and the next thing. And I will go, no, we've just done that. Now I need that. And so therefore I need you to. Yeah. And, you know, largely, I would say 90% of the time they go, oh, all right. And off they go, and all of a sudden, you know, play has morphed, and, you know, I find it quite extraordinary to watch them and at the same time create my own space. The other thing that can happen is they go, oh, and they get into their own victim story about how you never and you always and you da-da-da-da-da. And so I'm very quick to go, don't use the never and always language with me, because never and always don't exist. Too black and white. And so I pull them up on that language. They think and have to reframe. And often as they're thinking about the never and the always, they're going, oh, well, okay. You know, or I'll say, I know, I really hear that right now you really want me to play with you, and you're really upset that I'm not. But it's really important that I have this time, whatever, because then I feel like this, and then we feel like this, and then our life functions like this. So I'm explaining the why and how it fits in and how it still serves them, as opposed to it taking away from them. I'm trying to explain the win-win.
I just love that. It's such gold, and it's a perfect example of setting loving boundaries.
Yeah, and they totally get it. They totally get it. What else? I had a brain flash then, and then I've completely forgotten it again. The constant chatter. Yep. So sometimes, because my 4-year-old is like, she was born speaking, and I think the minute she gets up, it's just like a constant hum, and she does not stop until the second she's fallen asleep. Like, it's full on. And so I do talk a lot about quiet time. And the other day I heard her say something like, you know, she just need to quiet down. I was like, oh, yep, that's me too. And, you know, I talk about time for me, time for her. Sometimes I must admit I put on my headphones. I'm like, we're just going to listen to music individually right now. It's your headphones. Here's mine. And I take my breath, and she's, you know, in happy land dancing away to her own music. And I'm like, oh my God, she's not speaking to me. It's so good. like this. Or I'll just be really honest, I just can't listen to you right now. Like, I know that you really want to talk to me, but I really need quiet just for 5 minutes. You know, I'm like this. Yeah. And I'm really clear on bedtime. So, you know, I've been seeing a lot with that as well, is that particularly as my kids are getting older and they're not tired at 7:30 anymore. And they want to go to bed later, and particularly because it's holidays and it's summer and it's twilight and we've been camping and, you know, out and about. So, you know, largely when that happens, they're not going to bed till the sun goes down. So they're going to bed till, you know, 9:30 at night or whatever it is, which is fine when we're out and about and we're all having party time. But when we're home, that absolutely 100% does not work for me. And so I'm really clear on, I know that you don't want to go to sleep right now, and that's fine, but I don't want you in the family room. I need my space. So I need you to go to bed. You can read, that's fine, but I need you to be in your space, not my space. And I'm totally clear about that. And sometimes I go, oh, but, you know, all these reasons why that doesn't work for them. And I go, yeah, I know. Look, I hear all of that. But your option is literally lights out, go to sleep, or it's have your quiet time in your room, because I need time up here where it's just about mum and dad, where it's just about our relationship, where we get time to ourselves and to each other. And that's really important for us. And that's really important for you. And that's really important for our family. And so they do. And I think for the rest of their lives, no matter how old they are, I'm probably going to be pretty intense about that, is that 7:30, there is no one in my space at all. You don't have to go to sleep, but don't be in my space.
I love that, because that is certainly an area that has been frustrating me more. Is I've certainly noticed that Hugo particularly pushes like more and more things he wants to get out of his day. You know, just one more bit more cricket, or let's have a recipe, or let's read 3 books, or you know, like the thing, to the point at which I'm like, if I don't set a clear boundary, I begin to resent it. Yeah. You know, because it's that whole thing, like the boundary is the point at which we're about to lose ourselves if we do not set a boundary or a limit that is loving for ourselves, and we're going to end up resenting our children or whoever it is that we're giving too much to. So that's a beautiful example. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that I nail it. I say that I think everything's a season and we ebb and flow constantly. But like you, I think having just the ability to consciously question what's going on for me right now, what is this reflective of? What is it bringing up for me? What are they bringing to me? And just lingering, like you said, a little bit longer there, to have a breath, to ask ourselves that question, can be transformational. Yeah. A breath is transformational. We want to think that in order to change our, you know, hyper reactions, that it has to be this big thing. But in all honesty, you only need to start with a breath. Breath is a love note to your body, right? Like there is. I love that saying. Me too. A breath is just gives you the moment to recenter and refocus, to bring your adult self in out of your inner child self.
A breath is the difference between reacting and responding.
Yes, it is. Isn't it? Yeah. So, you know, I'd say it's that too. Of those things that let us know that it's having ripples out in your world, or what's resonating, what you'd love to hear more about, perhaps a, you know, question or an area that we could answer, you know, would be really beautiful. And we love that you tune in and that we are talking to some beautiful mamas out there. It's really cool.
It's really cool.
And to connect with you, Bridge?
It's suburbansandcastles.com, and the film is currently coming up. It's called Intuition is your personal guidance system. So it's a really interesting film by an Australian filmmaker. And that's going to be sold out probably in both Melbourne and Geelong fairly soon.
So jump on to Suburban Sandcastles.
SuburbanSandcastles.com.
Is that /events?
No, just go to the homepage. You'll find it easy.
Cool.
And to connect with you, Jules?
Is thepleasurenutritionist.com. And don't forget, you have to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.